President Obama drag his feet going to the Supreme Court? And if he does, who is he thinking of, himself or the American people? On Friday, he got dealt a blow by the United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Circuit when the court held 2-1 that the individual mandate in the new health care law is unconstitutional. Now, 2 months earlier, another Court of Appeals, the 6th Circuit, decided the opposite, holding it is constitutional. So now the president has to make a decision. Either go to the Supreme Court right away and ask them to decide this important matter as soon as possible, or the president has another choice. He can drag out getting a Supreme Court decision, probably past election 2012, by simply going back to the entire 11th Circuit Court and asking them to rethink what the 11 appellate judges decided on Friday. Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi is leading the multi-state health care lawsuit. She joins us from Tallahassee. Nice to see you, Pam. And tell me, any word from the Justice Department? Are they going to go to the full 11th Circuit Court or go to the Supreme Court right away?
You know, Greta, all the states, all 26 states, we're all speaking with NFIB, National Federation of Independent Business. No word yet from Department of Justice. But let me tell you, if President Obama tries to make this political, just like he did with the debt ceiling, look what his ultimate goal was with the debt ceiling, to drag it out until after 2012. And we hope that he doesn't do that here and make this political. We have a bipartisan decision by 2 judges in favor of our ruling, and this needs to get to the Supreme Court as soon as possible. It's morally indefensible and it's ethically indefensible if he places politics over our constitutional rights.
As a practical matter, I read in today's Baltimore Sun that, for instance, the state of Maryland got $27 million on Friday to begin developing these insurance exchanges. And if indeed it goes to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court agrees with the 11th Circuit, declares this mandate unconstitutional, there is a serious gutting of this law, and people have to really rethink this. So it's not, I mean, there's a real practical reason for taxpayers that we don't spend money, and we know the Supreme Court's going to decide it one way or the other. We don't know how they're going to decide, but they're going to make the final decision.
Greta, that's right. He gave $27.2 million to Maryland. A total of $185 million went out Friday to states. And let me tell you, I'm proud that in Florida, Governor Scott's not taking any of this money because this is unconstitutional. This is what we've been saying all along, and we're not getting wrapped up in this money. You know, Greta, it also affects our businesses. Businesses aren't wanting to hire. The Heritage Foundation just did a study that showed there was a correlation between Obamacare passing and people being hired dropping, the number of people being hired. So yeah, you're right. Everyone's getting tied up in this money, and that's why it has to go to the Supreme Court as soon as possible. It's in the best interest of all Americans, all businesses, and to me, that's the most important thing right now.
You know, it would not be unusual to go to the full court, to ask the full court, since there's a split decision 2-1. I mean, that's the legal advice. That may not be the best. I mean, that's perhaps not a good decision for America as we stand by and spend money and we're left in indecision. But he might be getting legal advice, not, sort of the moral advice to get decided quickly. So, that is one sort of issue. He's got an absolute right to ask the full court to decide this.
Well, however, Greta, if you recall, initially we asked the 26 states and National Federation of Independent Business, we asked that the court hear this en banc, meaning all the judges at once. And you know who objected? The federal government. They didn't want it to be heard en banc. They didn't want all the judges to hear it at the same time. So I'm going to find it very interesting now if they go back and because they lost, they want to do that to drag it out past 2012 elections.
And we should
because we need to get to the Supreme Court.
We should probably explain to the viewers that now that there's a decision on Friday, there's a certain number of days, I forgot what it is, for the federal government to make a decision whether to go immediately to the Supreme Court or to ask for a full court. But if they decide to go to the full court in the 11th Circuit, then it will not, we will not get to a position of getting the matter to the Supreme Court by about January 1st. So it's not going to be decided in the term for the Supreme Court, which will necessarily bring us past 2012.
Past the elections. You're absolutely right. And let me tell you, we're all meeting. We're meeting with Paul Clement, who's a former Solicitor General under President Bush, who argued the case for us. We're all meeting, we're discussing our options because we all have the ultimate goal of getting it to the Supreme Court as soon as possible and taking politics out of this.
And we should remind the viewers that the Sixth Circuit decided differently on the individual mandate.
Yes.
And you asked to have the entire statute thrown out as it was in the trial court, but the 11th Circuit only held in your favor, determining that the individual mandate is unconstitutional. Am I right?
Yes, they did. They did. But, you know, even the federal government has acknowledged that without the mandate, the rest of it basically can't stand. Of course, we hoped that they would have thrown out the entire thing, but without the mandate, they can't go anywhere, and they've even acknowledged that.
Unless
pre-existing,
it takes away the funding unless you do one of two things: go massively into debt or massively raise taxes. Those are the choices.
Exactly. Exactly.
Pam will be watching. Let us know as soon as you hear from the Justice Department whether they're going to go right to the Supreme Court or ask for the full court. Thank you, Pam.
We will. Thank you, Greta.